Adequate notice of this meeting of the mayor and council was sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, and notice was posted on the bulletin board and the borough's website. Take roll call. Councilwoman Donovan?
Here.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Here.
Councilman de Blasio?
Here.
Councilman Maroney?
Here.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Here. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, their families, and our first responders. Thank you. Tonight we're going to be doing a few things a little out of order. We have, first thing on our agenda is Resolution 2026-99, which is the resolution appointing Joseph R. DeFeo as a patrolman of the Belmar Police Department. So we need to take a vote on that, and then we will administer the oath of office.
Okay, would someone like to make the motion to adopt Resolution 2026-99?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes. Now I'm going to invite the council to stick in front, and I'm going to administer the oath of office. Officer DeFeo.
Just a quick little bio on Joseph DeFeo. Joseph, Joe, as they all call him, DeFeo, 29 years old, was raised in Brielle, New Jersey, and graduated from Manasquan High School in 2015. Inspired by his father, who retired from the New Jersey State Police as a lieutenant colonel in 2004, Joe decided to pursue his career in law enforcement. Joe began his career in law enforcement here in Belmar in 2016 as a Class 1 police officer, and then continued on to Class 2 while he was attending Belmar University of Pennsylvania. 2018 is when he became a Class 2 here in Belmar. In August of 2020, Joe accepted a full-time position with the Spring Lake Heights Police Department, where he proudly served for the last 6 years. He is honored by the opportunity to continue his law enforcement career here in Belmar and remains committed to serving the communities, residents, and visitors with dedication and professionalism. Joe?
This is a big photo opportunity. Get it right. Go ahead, take your time. Okay, you're gonna have to repeat after me.
Yes, sir.
I, Joseph R. DeFeo,
I, Joseph R. DeFeo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in the state,
and in the state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
perform all the duties as patrolman
perform all the duties as a patrolman
for the Borough of Belmar Police Department
for the Borough of Belmar Police Department
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Usually I would have him pin the badge on, but since he's in a suit, I'm just gonna hand him the badge.
Yeah. A few pictures. Yes, the songs.
How many presentations do we have?
We're not having talent. We're going to start a workshop, and the first thing in our workshop is going to be an update on 1200 Main. And we're going to have a short presentation by our LSRP, which previously was known as Prestige Environmental, and now are Abella. Environmental or
Associates.
Associates. Okay, and we have here Girish Mehta, who's an engineer and an LSRP, and Chris Delmonico, who's also an LSRP. They are going to go over the materials and the things that they found in their investigation of the 1200 Main site. So, and I will, if it's okay with the council, we will permit some short questioning from the public after this. All right.
I'll grab a microphone so everyone can hear. So good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Delmonico. I'm an LSRP, and I am the assigned LSRP for the 1200 Main Street project with what is now Labella Associates, but when we started this project, we were Prestige Environmental, and we merged with Labella at the beginning of this month. And also with me here is Girish Mehta, who initially started Prestige Environmental. Say what?
1993. Yeah, we started in 1993 and we just merged with the associates.
So yeah, I've been doing this since the 1900s, as they say, with over 25 years experience. Girish has even more than that. So we're now part of Labella, which is a 2,200 employee company with over 40 offices, and we do a lot more than just environmental. We do civil engineering, architecture, landfills, and power management. But today we're here to talk about the former Amoco station, 1200 Main Street. It operated as a gasoline station since the 1940s. It was originally developed in about 1905. It was actually a church for a little while. But for the past 70 years, it's been a gas station of some sorts. For the environmental history, back in January of 1987, there was reports of gasoline-type odors in one of the businesses immediately adjacent to the property. So DEP came out and did some investigating and was able to determine that the owner of the gas station had not inspected or tested the underground storage tanks in the 35 years of operation there. So subsequently, they found out the tanks were leaking, and they drained them, they relined them, and put them back in service. They also installed some wells in the ground into the groundwater, and they found free-floating gasoline on top of the water table. And they started to pump out the gasoline and water as it accumulated. Then in 1990, when they were redoing the water main along 12th Avenue, adjacent to the gas station, there was petroleum-smelling soil that they encountered. So it was kind of confirmed that this contamination migrated off the property. And then finally, in 1991, they removed the USTs from the site, and they dug out a little bit of the contaminated material that they found when we built the tanks. Following that, for the next 30 or so years, there was very limited work that was done on the property. DEP did come in and do some testing of vapors inside the building at 1200 Main Street, which there were none. But they also, as a result of the work that they did, they ended up placing 2 liens on the property. Then in 2022, the consultant Gibson and Stowell were hired by the borough to do this pre-purchase investigation, do the due diligence as the borough was considering purchasing the property. They did find some environmental concerns, and they also identified that there was soil and groundwater contamination. After that initial due diligence, the property was purchased on June 12, 2022, and with that, $300 was withheld from the purchase price and put into escrow, and that was based on an estimate that Gibson and Stowell determined at the time. Following that, Gibson and Stowell then did some more soil and groundwater investigation, and they also excavated some of the contamination that they did find, but it also kind of determined that the escrow was insufficient. So yeah, Gibson and Stowell installed monitoring wells to try to delineate the groundwater contamination, but in the 2 years that they were investigating, they were not able to find the end of the contamination, find the extents. They also generated a lot of data, but none of that data was reported. There was no preliminary assessment or receptor evaluation done, and no site investigation or remedial investigation reports were prepared or submitted to the state. And then this figure here, you can see these are the initial samples that they collected as part of the due diligence. And the blue samples are samples that were not contaminated, and the red ones were contaminated. And this is the information they used to base their $300,000 escrow amount on. Then in September of 2024, the dotted line on the corner around that whole section of the parking area was excavated. And again, blue dots are post-excavation samples that are clean, and the red ones are showing that there's still residual contamination on the sides. So following the excavation, they went out to try to delineate the soil, and they collected additional samples in the street and on the eastern portion of the parking area there. And you can see that the contamination is migrating across 12th Avenue. And then this is an estimated plume of where the groundwater contamination is. Again, the red dots show where elevated contaminants are identified in the monitoring wells, and the blue ones, those are their clean locations. So the way environmental works in New Jersey, you generally start with a preliminary assessment, which is New Jersey's version of a due diligence investigation. You do that to identify potential areas of concern, and then if need be, you investigate those areas of concern to see if there's any contamination. So that, once you determine that, you go to a site investigation, collect some samples. If you find contamination, you do a remedial investigation where you try to determine the extent of the contamination, which leads you to your remedial action, which is the cleanup of the contamination, and then your final document certifying that the cleanup is complete is called a response action outcome, or an RAO. So where we are in this system right now is in the remedial investigation to remedial action portion. Another element to the work is doing a receptor evaluation to identify potential receptors, which are, parks, drinking water, vapor intrusion, land use, ecological stuff. None of that has been completed up until recently. So for Steve, starting in 2025, we prepared a preliminary assessment report, and we identified 5 areas of concern. We also started the receptor evaluation, and based on that, there is a community supply well that supplies drinking water to Belmar in 3 Acre Park, right across the street. We did sample that well, and it came up clean. There was no volatile organic compounds detected. And then we also, because there are drinking water wells, right next door to the property, we then sent letters out to people within about 500 feet of the property to do a survey to determine if there's any unpermitted wells that might be on people's properties. So you might have received letters from me specifically. And then back in April, we also did some additional sampling in 12th Avenue to try to delineate the soil contamination. So these were the samples that were previously collected. And then we expanded upon that. And again, we have blue samples kind of providing delineation on the east, south, and west. But we still do have that one soil sample that is at the far end of 12th Avenue that still needs delineation. So the next steps, because we have groundwater contamination that's contaminated with gasoline contaminants, we need to perform a vapor intrusion investigation at properties that might be influenced by this groundwater plume. And that involves sampling of the air in the basement and subslab soil gas samples. And then we also need to finish remediating the soil around that northern location and potentially collect some additional samples to kind of tighten up that pink dotted line. That is our proposed soil excavation area as part of the remediation. So once the soil is delineated, the plan is to come in and excavate the contaminated soil within the roadway, since most of the property was already cleaned up. Once the soil is cleaned up, then you have to monitor the groundwater. Once you take that source soil out, groundwater tends to naturally clean itself up through a process called monitored natural attenuation. And once we can confirm that we have decreasing concentrations in groundwater, we can then issue that final RAO. So the soil remediation process, the contaminated soil is about between 5 and 8 feet below grade, so there's some clean soil on top of it. So we would come in, we'd scrape the road and sidewalks off. We would come in, stockpile that clean soil so that we don't have to pay to dispose of it. Find that sandwiched 5 to 8 feet of contaminated soil. Scrape that out, dig that out, load it onto tractor trailers or onto trucks and dump trucks, and they'll load it off and dispose of it in an off-site facility. But because the water table is very shallow here, you'll tend to get running sands and it might start collapsing in your excavation a little bit. So we use what are called trench boxes and kind of hold up the sides and allow us to dig through that. And we'll also dewater by pumping the water and storing it into something like that, which is a frac tank. And there are also utility lines that are running through the excavation. There's a gas line and a water line, so those will have to be supported during the whole process. And in the end, everything will be restored to where it was, backfilled with clean soil. The stockpiled soil we scraped off the top would also be used to save on costs. And then the sidewalks and roads would then be returned to where they're at now. Traffic impact, 12th Avenue, it's anticipated to last about 4 to 5 weeks to complete this work. So a section of 12th Avenue, just off Main Street at the corner there, will likely need to be closed. So the estimated cost of the remaining work is about $760,000. We've already completed some tasks that we spoke about before, the preliminary assessment and the site investigation report, the receptor evaluation. That's kind of a dynamic document that keeps changing and keeps being reevaluated. And we also did some soil remedial investigation. Most of those costs were covered by the money that was remaining in escrow from the sale of the property. But and a large portion of this final $760,000 is primarily for the soil remediation. And then once this property is remediated, you know, likely will increase the property value, and depending on what the borough chooses to do with it, they could likely recoup some of their costs if they resell the property. So yeah, that's the current status of 1200 Main Street. So we're going to take some questions.
Well, let's first see if any of the council members have any questions at this point, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you coming back again and filling us in again. One of the things I wanted to ask last time, and I forgot to, was where can you put up the image of where the clean wells and the one well is still on the north side?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah, that.
This one?
No, go back. That one.
Yeah.
So that north side well, how much further do you keep going to monitor into that property? Like, do you go a foot, or 3 feet, or 5 feet, or how far, how often, when you find out?
So that's soil. This is soil results, so we would still continue to step out. We would probably do in like 5-foot increments, collect another sample to try to find the end of it.
There seems to be a two or a little more than 2 year gap from when works was done to where we're kind of picking it up in 2025. Seems like from 2022 to 2025. Is that where some of this has spread, that the groundwater grabbed it and moved it across the street? It doesn't seem like it seemed like there were clean wells in the initial report. We don't have that reported properly. Is that an assumption that we can all make, or not?
The amount that would have moved in those 2 years would have been limited compared to the fact that these tanks started leaking in, were first identified to be leaking in the 90s. So that's when it started to travel, but of course, would have traveled some over those 2 years.
Excuse me. There are two aspects of this. This is 80 years of documented contaminated site. The other thing that kicked in February of 2025, the groundwater standards have changed to stricter standards from the EP. So some of the points which may have been clean before, now, they pose a challenge for us. The two things. When we're looking at about 100 years of history that we found, 80 years of Amoco service station with documented contamination. There was a church before that, so we don't have to think about it, what happened before Amoco. That's what we are dealing with right now. We are here to offer solution, which is to remove the soil, which is the source of groundwater contamination. The simple analogy or example I can give you is like when you brew your coffee and you pour water through it, what you get in your mug is like, this is how the contaminated groundwater works. When you throw away your coffee and you pour water, it's going to be clean. That's the idea here. I'm an engineer. We have designed this system to solve the problem and it's a little bit tedious because of the groundwater situation. We have to use the trench box, and then we have to dewater, and then go in section by section.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first two, because I'm not quite sure from what was asked and what was answered. In 2022, were samples ever taken beyond the perimeter of the property line?
Samples were not collected during
We're back, I suppose, whenever.
this is the pre-purchase sample locations,
Pre-purchase, okay.
and then this is post-purchase,
Okay.
and then this is additional post-purchase. If you can read the dates, these are October of 2024, September of 2024, in March of '22.
So we don't know for sure if it was spreading so much as we don't know the full extent to which it went out.
Right, there was that 1990 utility, the water main done that shows, that it had extended by that point into 12th Avenue.
And my other question is, I hope is a little more straightforward. Can you give me any type of timeline, however broad, for the soonest this property would be usable?
Well, the property can be used very shortly because most of the issues on the property have been resolved. What we are dealing with mainly is the groundwater contamination, which has spread in almost 80 years. And as you can see in the figure, the groundwater flow is towards the north. So the contamination started on the property with leaking tanks and everything else, and then it slowly spread, started going off-site to the north. And that is confirmed by the soil results also. As you can see, the red dots increase in numbers and also in concentration as we go off-site. So that's the situation we are dealing with.
So to be clear, then the actual property itself right now is relatively clean?
The property can be, it can be made use of, like, you might want to demo the buildings or start using it for some purposes. The property itself is clean, but under the state regulations, we have to address the contamination, groundwater contamination, and we think that without removing the soil, your groundwater levels will not drop. And we also have to address some of the issues on some of the properties on the other side of the avenue.
But yeah, if you see on this figure here, the bottom of the pink box that's on the site, that is soil contamination that is still remaining. So yeah, once the soil contamination is removed, then the site is fairly usable. You'll still need access or, monitoring wells to continue monitoring the groundwater. But the destructive nature of the remediation would be complete. It's just monitoring from that point on.
Question on this, where B1 and B2 is, and would that area be excavated? Would the ground be removed from that
Yes.
portion of the property?
Yep.
Okay, just like it would be in the street.
Correct.
What about B7? All the way by Main Street?
That one will need to be addressed somehow, likely through a small excavation, bumping it out over on that side.
These, the samples that we took, none of them are inside the building itself, so I think at some point this building's gonna be demolished and, the property be used that way. What are the chances of finding more contamination under the building itself?
Our assessment did not indicate any major issues inside the building. I think it's a solid building with concrete slabs and everything else. And we have evaluated areas of concern inside the building, so we are not too worried about that.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be, there were samples collected inside the building previously, and there was, no real contamination identified.
And just to clarify, when you say inside the building, do you mean like getting to the soil underneath the building, or you mean like the slab itself?
Below the slab.
Thank you.
So are we permitted, while the cleanup is ongoing, to develop this site or sell it or do something like that? As long as we've got a plan moving forward for the contamination that reached into 12th Avenue and beyond?
Yeah, there's no real regulation saying what you can and can't do with a contaminated property in terms of development, but it's, easier to complete the remediation, when there's limited to no structures. So you can continue, you can market it, you can do whatever you want, concurrent with our work.
Regarding the cost of construction, I'm assuming the borough, will be able to see a full breakdown on the bids for each line item. And are we able to choose certain areas that we can bid out or do work with our DPW, road work, anything like that? That's what, ways to reduce, save, our own savings with our forces.
Yeah. We looked at those possibilities, but
It's a regulation like the OSHA, anyone working on this site has to be like 40-hour trained for hazmat, things like that. This is also a specialized kind of trade. We have contractors who specialize in this type of work. Number one, you're working in shallow groundwater, contaminated soil. The other challenge is the utilities that, we have to support and go in section by section. So we can actually look at that. It's not just, what I'm trying to get it is like, it's not just simple machine and excavation and loading the soils. Okay, we'll have to be, just scrape it off, like first 5 feet we have to scrape off stockpile and all that. So as long as the people are 40-hour trained, and also they have a refresher in hazmat operations, we would consider that.
Okay, yeah, I think the point was just that we would have the opportunity to review that and that you're getting competitive bids or we're bidding out certain sections through the borough itself. That was my only question.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, why don't we open it up to the public? Does anyone have any questions or comments that they'd like to ask our engineer and LSRP on this? Come on up. State your name and address, please. And the 5-minute rule still pertains to comments, please.
Yeah, Bob Lynch, 316 9th Avenue. First, you called it 3-acre park to park across the street. It's not 3-acre park.
Okay.
It's Memorial Field.
Memorial Field.
3-acre park is another contaminated site further over on 16th Avenue.
Yeah. We found only one well there and that was sampled, so yes. Thank you.
About the cost, you said $760,000. Now I'm assuming that was for mostly disposal of the materials, cleaning the material up. Now there's going to be road work, repaving, sidewalks, other things. That's not included in your cost, is it?
it's only
It's included.
Oh, it is included.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all the repairs to 12th Avenue
Yeah.
and the sidewalks all surrounding.
Right. So for budgetary purposes, we include everything, and then, once we get on the job, we try to scale back. Like if we have estimate of 3 to 4 weeks, if we can do it faster, with proper supervision, with cooperation. Again, the road work can be sidewalk, road work, curbs can be subcontracted to someone else,
Yeah.
to save cost.
And the $760,000, the $300,000 in escrow isn't applied to that, is it? That's already been spent.
300,000 is gone, well, mostly gone. Used by the prior LSRP to do the additional work after the property was purchased.
So it's $760,000 plus the $300,000 is what the investment is, right?
In cleanup.
So far.
Yeah, the 760,000 is starting now to completion. That's our budget.
Is there any way to go after Amoco?
Well, that's a legal question, and they're not attorneys, so I'm sure they're not going to answer it.
And you were talking about the tanks. I think you said the tanks at one time were relined,
That's right.
but also were they completely, are they removed? The tanks are removed too?
Tanks were removed after many, many years, but initially, when they found the floating gasoline in the monitoring well, that was an indication that the tanks were leaking. So what they basically did was they lined the tanks to continue operation of the Amoco gas station that did not actually address the issue, which would be conducting the investigation and taking out the tanks or removing soil contamination and everything.
And then once the tanks are empty and removed, there's no more source of contamination, but the contamination that's there is just gonna be mobile and move with the.
Yeah, that's the theory, but again, we don't know, before they repaired the tanks, we don't know for how many years the tanks were leaking. The early indications were like 1980s, the first thing. The way I remember is like a timeline is, Reagan was the president at that time, if you can go back to those many years. So it is long term. We believe that the tanks were leaking for quite a number of years, and the problem is still there. And as you can see from our investigation, as the soil samples moved outward toward the 12th Avenue and also the groundwater samples, contamination is more on the street than on the property. So that's how it goes, because the contamination follows the groundwater flow direction.
And you're saying the groundwater is only maybe 5 feet below the surface? So
Yes,
the
well.
contamination is gonna stay in that ground level, or water level, right?
Well, yeah, and also I think with the fluctuation in groundwater, you have the smearing effect in the soil. So that's also a theory.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anyone else?
I have a
Ask
question.
your question.
Has anyone received one of our letters for asking you for any
Monitoring wells or any wells on your property?
I have.
'Cause we sent about 70 letters, that's why I'm asking.
With those 70 letters, has anyone replied that they have a well? Any within the 500 feet? Have you received any yes responses? Sorry.
We did receive one yes response.
Yeah, one. Yeah, and we'll sample that well.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Claire Keith B. If I'm understanding this correctly, when the property was purchased, some study was done, but did we have all that information documented? I know we put $300,000 into the escrow on that. Did we have all this information prior to that? Do we know if we had all that information prior to it? How bad it was and it was
They have-
spreading for
they
years
have
and
the,
years and years?
Well, we had to ask the
Previous consultant to give us all the documents,
Okay.
and that's how, and we also generally check with the DEP website, but there was nothing there, so we contacted the consultant and requested documents from him, and we got those documents, we reviewed everything, and that's how we were able to put this presentation together.
So we knew a lot of stuff before we bought it. And I was even at the groundbreaking for it. So-
Well, that was the soil that was trucked in to break it. They didn't actually break the ground
Yeah.
because of the contamination.
I think my understanding is that the previous LSRP didn't even test underneath the street, right? He just basically tested the property or didn't come up with a clean line, something like that, right? That's kind of what this down there said.
I think it's a puzzle for us, but
If we go back to the initial investigation that it did, as you can see, the red dots are very limited. And I believe that, I think he might have thought that if I dig up some soil in this area, it will all work out. I'm only speculating, but as a person with 35 years of experience in this business, that's the thought process. That, roll the dice and maybe everything will be fine. And if you see the next slide, this is what he did, and, dig up the soil and everything else, but you can see some red dots are along the sidewalk on 12th Avenue, and then after all this excavation and everything, as you can see now, there are surprises coming up. See? And this is what the groundwater situation is.
Okay.
clear too, you did say that the DEP had not received any reports from him, Gibson and Stahl,
Yeah.
about this property, correct?
Correct, yep.
That's correct. I think that the correct procedure is that you go to a site
And you look for what we call the areas of concern. You know, you find a tank, you find something else. And then you say, well, so let's say, for example, we say there are 10 areas of concern. Then we decide maybe 5 we don't need to do anything with the 5. Let's investigate 5. So we take samples, we do whatever we need to do. Out of 5, we say, well, we're done with 3. Now only 2 requires more work and all that. And you dig up those areas to do whatever you want to do. That's how we solve the problem. It's just step by step. You don't start digging site and, start taking the soil out. We have to know what the extent of contamination is and then go in and do the work. That's how it works.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. I wish you were here in
Thank you so much.
2022.
Thank you.
We have our cards. If anyone has any questions afterwards, you feel free to contact us. We can answer all your questions, any issues that comes to your mind.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone else have contaminated property that they need investigated?
Hi, Suzanne Annan, Fifth Avenue. I was just wondering at the time, I was listening back, and I just want to make sure I get this correct, that in 2022, when we purchased this property, how much did the town purchase this property for?
I'm talking off the top of my head, I think it was 1.2 million.
Okay. I mean, we know the property value in Belmar is extremely high, keeps growing. So in 2022, was $300,000 that was set aside in the escrow for the cleanup. If that was done at the time when we purchased this, would that have been enough?
I don't think it would have been enough, but you would have achieved a lot more work because the work, proper work would have been done before the new regulations kicked in.
And if the new regulations of the state did not kick in, what would our situation be now? I know it's, hindsight that we're looking at this, but I mean, has this happened because 3 years now have passed, the state regulations changed, and now all of a sudden, we have to do extra work on this to clean it up. Now, I'm a resident, I'm looking at this could have been a useful site for so many different things that we need for our own town, for EMS, for fire, for lifeguards to have an area. Do you feel like this area, after $760,000, after $1 million purchase, it doesn't seem like that much money, $1.1 million, correct? So do you feel like, how long, well, let me ask you this, how long do you think it would take to clean this property? How long would we be able to utilize this property? And I feel like, listening to all this, that this property still has value. I mean, I grew up in Saraville. I mean, if anybody knows Saraville, there are so many contaminated areas. I mean, even now when you pass
Yes.
the Driscoll Bridge, you see the Bass River being, all these areas could be remediated. And I just feel like, unfortunately, time wasn't on our side. This sat, it leaked, there's a school right across the street, and it's a huge concern. But is this salvageable?
Any property is salvageable. That's why we come in. We come in and solve the problem and make proper use of the property. I personally, as an licensed engineer and environmental professional, I am involved in many deals in Jersey City, Hoboken. Chris has been LSRB on many sites. Those properties are highly contaminated, and somebody comes in and hires us. We solve the problem, we take care of issues, and you can see 25, 40-story buildings coming up on those sites. So, yeah. And this is a beautiful location. I like this location. It's nice. It can be put to good use. And fortunately, there's not much left to be done on the site in terms of disturbance, and excavation and everything is limited. We have to deal with the street, take care of those issues, and I think we'll be done.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Sure.
Joe McAvoy, 700 Main Street. Question I have for you, sir, is in the past,
they'll do it this year, but because hurricane season's coming, they'll test the pumps on Silver Lake and lower the level of the lake while they do it. Is it wise to not mess with the level of the lake until remediation's all done? Because in the 30s, Silver Lake extended a few blocks towards that area, and, you know, that has to do with, you know, the groundwater in that area. Would it be wise to not do that until remediation's done this year?
Well, the remediation is first. Soil is first, without removing the source. Unless you throw the coffee from your filter, you're still going to get coffee in your mug.
I understand
That's
that.
how it works.
Do you think the lake has something to do with the groundwater in that area? Or
I don't think there's an influence.
No, there's no influence there. This is shallow groundwater we are dealing with. That's right. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
As you said, if you have any questions, please reach out. You can reach out to me, Mr. Kane, or directly to the two gentlemen that are right here. Okay? Thank you again, and we'll give you a minute to close up shop. Okay, next up, we're going to have Christine Bell, our floodplain administrator, talk about the NJDEP flood rules, called the real rules.
I'm gonna put this here
As opposed
so
to-
everyone can see it.
Do you wanna put it up here, so that way, yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it's okay. People can, you can keep it, April can keep it,
I
so.
think, but the public can't really see it.
Alright. April can keep it, so people can come and look at it.
We can take a picture of it and scan it and put it up on the screen if you want. Come on, April, take a picture, put it on the site.
You can keep that, so. You can hang it on the wall.
Just gotta
in the
hit the
office.
button to hold it.
Alright. So I am here, just to talk briefly about, the
Sit down there.
NJDEP,
Can you wait one moment?
We're gonna sit
We're
down.
gonna sit down, we
We're gonna
can
sit down.
see the, sorry for the interruption.
That's okay.
I don't mean to interrupt. Does somebody have a white Ford truck? The alarm's going off. It's parked out here on the side. White Ford? White Ford? Ford truck?
I'm across the street.
No, it's right here on this side.
On this side here?
All right, so I'm here just to give a brief update on the NJDEP, NJPAC real rules, which stand for New Jersey Protecting Against Climate Threats, Resilient Environments, and Landscape Rules. So these rules were kind of in the works for a number of years, but on January 20th of this year, they were signed into effect, they were adopted, but there has been a 180-day grandfathering clause, so they'll really go into effect on July 20th of this year. These rules, what I'm talking about tonight, there were a number of different aspects of them, but they expand the coastal flood hazard regulated areas throughout the state of New Jersey. These new areas, which is known as the CAFE or CAFE, it's the climate adjusted flood elevation. and it takes into consideration future flood levels based on climate change projections for 2100. So it greatly expands the area that's regulated within the floodplain. And it also requires an additional 4 feet over the base flood elevation, whether it be the preliminary or more effective, whatever's more restrictive throughout that regulated flood hazard area. So there has been some kind of back and forth over this. It was not enacted by the state legislature, but through executive action. In 2020, Governor Murphy signed an executive order in which DEP was to incorporate the impacts of climate change into the rules governing coastal zone management, flooding, stormwater management, and other state regulations. So that's where these rules came from. Originally, the elevation was an additional 5 feet. That was reduced to 4 feet in July 2025. But because these rules were just signed by executive action and not introduced through the legislature process, there's currently Cape May, Ocean, and Monmouth County have a lawsuit against these rules because they feel they're unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious. The New Jersey Builders Association and the New Jersey Business and Industry Association also have a lawsuit against these rules. There has been a resolution introduced in, I believe, both the Senate and legislature that determines the DEP's rules are inconsistent with legislative intent and that NJDEP overstepped their authority. But I do not have any updates on any of those legal actions. So as of right now, today, on July 20th, these rules will be fully in effect. Other parts of the Real PAC rules, they previously updated some of the stormwater requirements, but these flood hazard areas are really the big ones. So this map that I have up here illustrates the new regulatory area. Everything that's kind of in hash mark is what is currently in the 100-year special flood hazard area, and then the yellow is the expanded TAF regulated area. So you'll see it dramatically increases the area regulated within Belmar. There has been, in addition to the lawsuits I just mentioned, there has been a lot of concerns, I think, over the increased cost of rebuilding or housing. Basically anything within this area would be impacted with a substantial improvement. They would be required to, raise to that additional 4 feet. So that is, for example, if you're currently in a special flood hazard area with a base flood elevation of 10, that means with the 1 foot of freeboard required, your design flood elevation is 11. This would add another 4 feet onto that, so that would make the first floor of livable space at 15 feet. So I know there's been concerns up and down the coast about how that will kind of affect the landscape of our communities going forward. NJDEP has released a new model flood damage prevention ordinance incorporating these rules, which personally I find a bit frustrating because you all recall not that many years ago we had to adopt a new flood ordinance. So with the model they put forth at that time, I believe they're requiring municipalities have until January of next year to adopt the new model flood ordinance. Most towns I work in are kind of, they haven't been, running to adopt it. They're kind of waiting to see what happens, and I think that's how I've been directed in Belmar. That's really it, just a general overview. If you guys have any additional questions, I will try my best to answer them. Yes.
Is there training that people on relevant committees should be taking to make sure they understand and are in compliance with these rules?
Every once in a while there'll be a webinar, but there has not been any full training for this.
So if you're on zoning, if you're on planning, nothing?
Correct.
What can we provide for them so that they understand the changes?
So I have gotten quite a few phone calls as your floodplain administrator from people that are mostly, either interested in selling or buying a property or thinking about making any new improvements to their property. If you have a complete permit prior to July 20th, you're grandfathered into those old rules. So I know in a number of towns, people are, even if they don't plan on doing any work until the fall, they're kind of trying to make sure they have those permits complete. But I've been providing as much information as I can when people call me. I can send you all some additional information. The DEP's website is there.
Right, I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure we put together all those materials and get them out to people as quickly as possible for the public, and like I said, the relevant committees, so that we're in compliance with state law unless it's overturned. What'd you say? Yeah. I know, we met with the former commissioner while he was in office, and I asked a lot of questions, and I know the boardwalk, we won't have a problem with that, and even if a storm wipes it out, there won't be any issues there. But can you remind me what it would be like for a building on Main Street if they have to rebuild anything after July 21st? Will there be an issue there?
There are some. It depends on the type of building and the elevation, and so I can't tell you just generally because the flood rules are very
Is it something where
specific?
Is it something where if they're keeping the underlying structure, they wouldn't have to?
If it's a substantial improvement, so if it
we're going with that, yeah.
costs over 50% of the assessed value of the structure, they would need to come into compliance with the regulations. For commercial structures, that doesn't necessarily mean elevation. There are different types of flood proofing that you can do. Yes.
I have so many questions, but initially, you're saying if someone knocks down a home after July 21st, as the rule stands now, the first floor has to be 15 feet.
Well, so that was just an example. If you're in the special flood hazard area with a base flood elevation of 10, which is what is pretty typical if you're in a flood hazard area in Belmar today, then yes, instead of 10, it would be 15.
And then what if you wanted to build multiple stories? Like, how does that work?
So that is something that the borough will need to contemplate whether we increase the overall permitted height or people are.
And then what about the homeowners now? Do you think that this will impact homeowners insurance or flood insurance in some way for us current homeowners who have homes that are 3 feet, 5 feet above sea level?
So this is separate from flood insurance. Your flood insurance is still based on the FEMA effective maps. This theoretically could reduce your flood insurance premiums because it's requiring you to bill to a much higher standard than what, is required by the FEMA maps. So if, you know, you had a substantial improvement and you were built to that new higher standard, it
What
would,
about the existing homes? That's what I'm asking.
Uh,
It shouldn't change?
it shouldn't change.
Do we also have to do, like, ancillary updates, like ramps? If you have a ramp and you have to go to 15 feet,
Yeah.
how do you?
Flip an elevator.
No, let's can afford an elevator.
Especially in flood zone.
Excuse me?
Elevators in flood zones are,
Also a problem,
Also-
excellent point.
we do them, but they're not easy.
Yeah, but the ramp, you're gonna need
Yep, a lot more.
yeah.
Right, so it, you know, may affect, not even a ramp, you know, if your house is 5 feet taller than it used to be, it may affect your setbacks, your, you know, permitted area for porches and stairs even into your house.
It sounds to me like there's a lot of work to be done on our zoning that has probably not started yet, is that? Oh, you have?
Well-
Thank you.
I think some of the, yeah, so the height is one thing. Even after Sandy, you know, with home elevations, I was doing a lot of them in Manasquan. Manasquan actually raised their building height from 35 to 38 feet at that time, because those houses went up so much more than where they were. We're in a better situation than them. We have higher flood zone, higher roads, and the homes are typically higher. But for a home to go from 9 to 15, we're gonna be way above our current 35-foot height restriction. So that's something to be discussed. And again, setbacks, steps, you know, steps down from rear decks, side steps, people that have, you know, side steps that are at grade, that are going to a driveway. Those are major implications that are gonna affect everyone. And I think you answered Mrs. Kinney's question, is that, say I built a home last year and it was in a flood zone X, not required to have flood insurance. These now change, I'm in an AE zone 10, or whatever it is, or 15 technically. It's not gonna be a FEMA requirement to get the flood insurance, because these are the DEP enforced?
Correct, so even today, Belmar regulates to a higher standard than the FEMA regulatory floodplain, and that's the state of New Jersey as a whole, but we regulate to the more restrictive of the best available data, basically, so that is the effective firms, the effective flood maps, and the preliminary flood maps. And then the state of New Jersey has 1 foot required of freeboard, so that's above that elevation number. So there are properties in Belmar that do not require flood insurance, are not in the FEMA regulatory floodplain, but when they come in to do work, we require them to get a flood permit and, you know, be built to that higher standard because they're in Belmar's regulatory floodplain. So this really just expands that even more.
So, let's go back to the legislative part of it. It was an executive order in January. It was challenged. It's now, you know, allegedly going to be effective again in July.
Well, no, so it was signed, it was adopted, you know, signed into effect on January 20th, but at that point there was this 180-day grandfather clause. It is being challenged currently. I do not have a status update on any of those challenges, but so we can only act under the assumption, right, that it will go into effect completely on July 20th.
And when it's in effect in July, Belmar still has the option to not enforce it until January,
No,
or not?
Belmar is
Not
required to enforce it, but we have until January to adopt our new flood ordinance.
Let me just back up for a second. The average homeowner, right, how do they right now know what the level of their home should be if they build a new home on their property? How will I find that out? How will I find that? I want to know, if I knock my house down today and I build another one tomorrow, how high must my house be? Where do I find that?
So, as part of, you know, if you're hiring professionals, or as part of your permit process, you know, when you submit permits to the borough, we would let you know whether or not you are in compliance with our requirements.
The requirements aren't posted anywhere or printed anywhere?
We have the requirements, we have our flood damage prevention ordinance. The DEP requirements are on their website.
But there's no place I can go and say, oh, 409 Fifth Avenue, let's see, you have to be 3 feet above.
There is, we link to mapping, which includes the, these rules, and then DEP has their own versions of that mapping, so you can, if you're looking to find what flood zone you're in.
I mean, I think that would be a first step, before we even talk about the real rules. I think it'd be nice to put something out to the public to say, this is how you can find out where you are in this whole flood game and elevation game that the DEP is foisting upon us.
The borough does do that every year as part of our requirements for the community rating system. I believe we usually send that information out over the summer.
But does it tell each homeowner what their level is based on where they're located?
No, but it gives them the information as to where they can find it.
Christine,
If I could.
Yeah.
will Forerunner,
Hold on.
will Forerunner be updated to include this?
Forerunner has like a little toggle.
Okay, so to the mayor's question, we do have a website where you can search an address and it tells you what's required. To know what your property actually is at, you have to hire your own professional to determine that.
Oh, that's nice.
So if
I can't find out so I have to hire what, an architect or an
So
engineer?
if you have
You have to get a base flood elevation certificate by an
Right.
engineer that's gonna come in and
Why do I have to,
survey.
that should be standard,
If
you know where I live, and you should be able to tell me what the base flood elevation is.
because we don't know the elevation of your property.
Why not?
If I could help you.
Survey.
So,
Thank you.
to answer your question, if you purchased a house in a flood zone, you more than likely got a flood elevation
Yes.
certificate as required by your insurance company. So that homeowner that's in a flood zone may have that information as to what's their current first floor elevation, and/or they may have it on file in the building department. So
Right, I
those are
think
two
that,
areas
I think
that-
the issue is homes that were purchased and were not in a regulatory flood zone at the time, that now as they, are either, for sale, or people just want to make improvements to them, that's where some of the issues are. When you purchase your property, even if you're not in a flood zone, you
I have all the papers.
should you should
that
have
my
gotten a
grandfather
survey done.
purchased my property in 1946, and I can guarantee you, there is no floodplain elevation
Right.
included in those papers.
But you should have had a survey of your property, which may tell you what the elevation of your property actually is.
I mean, I
That
just
can be
mentioned
a
this because people
starting
are gonna
point.
this is like a confusion on top of confusion. Because people are gonna see this and they're gonna say, oh my God, I have to go 15 feet, but then there's all these.
If you're not,
You gotta know where
if
you're
you're not
starting
making
though.
improvements to your home, you don't need to
Right.
raise your home. It's only if you're doing anything that triggers the substantial improvement, which there is a whole process that requires you to have much of that documentation as part of
And,
it.
and the council or the zoning, the other issue that's gonna arise is we're gonna have houses that are high,
Right.
and then you're gonna have low, and then you're gonna have high, and then you're gonna have low, 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 and then you're gonna have high. It's gonna be,
Well,
it's just not,
I think we're all hoping that the challengers to the legislation fall through. Write a letter, call your legislators, support the fight, because this is drastically affecting every town, Monmouth, Ocean, Cape May counties. It's gonna, affect home values for the immediate future, and it needs to be hopefully fought successfully.
is there any indication that the Assembly and the Senate would not pass these rules eventually? Because the challenge is based on the fact that only the legislature can do this. So let's say they win the challenge and they say, oh, the legislature can do it, and the legislature turns around and says, we're gonna do it.
Well, so
And-
there
and
is also a resolution in the legislature, saying that these were not the DEP overstepped their authority, and the legislature should
Okay.
be the appropriate body to craft, state legislation.
Well, the Senate President did had a whole hearing on this issue, what, was it about a month ago? As we were talking about it? Yeah. And as far as I know, it hasn't gone anywhere yet, so I was very curious to see how much of that was moving forward and how much of it was pacified in public. I know. Commentary, not question.
Yeah. There's a lot, it's unfortunate, right, because this is something that dramatically affects everyone that lives in any of these expanded flood hazard areas, but I think everyone would like more information.
Well, so that's what my next question was. Is there nowhere, a website, an updated, like, this is what's going on with the legislation today? There's no information out there right now?
Correct.
Somebody has something. But I mean, you had mentioned the DEP has the map, and these are based off of 100-year projections, and I believe like the worst case scenario in 100-year projections.
So they did, it's based on a Rutgers study, and they originally, like I said, it added an additional 5 feet of elevation. They went back, I think they got a lot of comments about them. They went back and said they revised the science, and based on newer sea level rise projections, they could reduce it from the 5 feet to the 4 feet. And they did that in July of 2025. Yes.
Quick question. What tools are the surveyors using to determine elevation? Are they using GPS?
I'm not a surveyor,
Yes.
so I.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can use your iPhone to.
I don't believe your iPhone is as accurate as surveying equipment.
Yeah, I have a separate GPS antenna at my house, and I get, I believe, accurate information with 8 space vehicles. But that should be more than sufficient to determine the elevation of your actual property. And I believe the iPhone does use GPS to establish elevation. There's a compass function right on your gizmo. Check that. And they get a pretty good idea of the elevation of your property.
It's not just the elevation of the property, right?
Right.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna open up the public. This is not a concern of elevation of the ground around your house. It's gonna be reflective of your first floor, okay? This just doesn't impact Belmar, it impacts everywhere. In my mind, when I think about these things, if you're driving through Lavalette or Seaside, is gonna be indicative of what, not just this town, all of the towns will look like, okay? You're gonna have garages on the first level, high basements, and then the houses are gonna be above. Tony Almeida, 10th Ave. I am the vice chairman of the zoning board. So ultimately, we need to do something about this as quickly as possible. With that being said, I firmly feel that the DEP is negligent in this. Spring Lake is suing, Manasquan is suing, Monmouth County is suing, the New Jersey Builders Association is suing, Cape May County is suing, Ocean County is suing. I make the stance that this municipality doesn't roll over like a neighboring town has and automatically adopted these rules. Kate, to your point, or Ms. Donovan, it's gonna drastically increase height requirements and restrictions in this municipality, and it's gonna change the demographic of what we do regarding
Do
housing.
you know, because I thought that Spring Lake and Avon had filed with Monmouth County on separate lawsuits.
I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that, what I've seen on social.
It's a checkbook question, not a.
I know Manasquan is leaving, look, there's glimmer glass section there is
Oh,
where
yeah.
my concern, right? The concern for us really should be, honestly, is, and this is my question for Ms. Bell, if Main Street, okay? So, how do you have first floor accessibility for boutiques, restaurants, et cetera, if you're in a flood zone and you have to comply with this base flood elevation plus 4?
So-
Can you do that?
Commercial space is different.
So what is
a raised
it's like flood vents in addition to flood proofing. I mean,
So we're
alternatively,
we're not anticipating that we would have to change elevations on a main street, not just for Belmar, but in general, unlikely.
I don't believe so.
Because I mean, if that was the case, we're talking handicap accessible ramps, we're talking nothing on the first floor.
Because I had asked the former commissioner that exact question, and he came back with the waterproofing one. And what's interesting too, if you look here, I feel like down away. Not in a good way either. At least not a good comparison for her. Not all of Main Street
No.
is in this, you know?
A good, from what street?
Yeah.
North.
Exactly.
From which street north there, can we tell? Do we know?
Yeah. So there we go. It is,
Approximately.
yeah, we start around 13th and go up.
13th going number
Yeah.
would be it.
Yes.
And every home from B Street.
And then all the projects that we have ongoing in this municipality right now, what are their requirements to comply?
So they would be, if, you know, they have their approvals already, they would be grandfathered.
Approvals, you need a building permit, or approvals, you need zoning and land use?
You need your, like DEP flood permit. Complete. It doesn't need to be approved, it needs to be deemed complete.
And then can you just clarify again, so people that don't understand, you mentioned substantial improvement. It is 50% of the assessed value of your structure only.
That's
and
correct.
That's the construction cost. So if you're, you know, and all of our structures have been reassessed, and now they're all worth more, and taxes have been adjusted, all those things. But, so if your home is assessed at $800,000, you can do up to $400,000 worth of work without having to comply with the new rules. If you do $401,000, your home has to go up to the right levels and comply with the flood zone.
That's correct.
But Ms. Bell, you would agree that the land values in this municipality are assessed significantly higher than the structures.
Absolutely. So,
and that's what's alarming to all of us. Okay, because you're selling $1.5 million houses in this town where the assessed values on the structures are $200,000. Okay, and then the land's assessed at $750,000.
They are
Very high number for these structures.
Okay.
so, that is correct. An alternative, if, you know, if you were to do a project that was could be a substantial improvement based on, the assessed value of the structure, a developer, a property owner is always able to, get a, you know, licensed appraiser to submit their own, assessed value of the structure if they believe, you know, the number in the tax value is not correct.
With that being said, then would the municipality reassess based on that appraisal?
No. I don't think so.
Perhaps once the work is complete.
I'm saying before, right? So this is something else that has to be strongly considered too. You don't want to go and do that and then have your taxes go up significantly until your renovation costs are complete. Your hands are tied. I know that firsthand. I look every day because it's directly impacting what I do, and most people are not aware of these changes. Hopefully they get, you know, shuffled down the road and we deal with it. It's gonna change every municipality.
Yeah, and I do know, perhaps the mayor can speak a little bit more, but I think it was, kind of referred to basically every southern Monmouth County coastal community, from Bradley Beach to Manasquan, so including Belmar, Bradley Beach, Avon, Belmar, Spring Lake, Seagirt, Brielle, and Manasquan are all in a little group where they're talking about these issues.
Asbury Park?
I just know the group is, the northernmost town is Bradley Beach. Asbury Park might be doing something on their own, but I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we continue up on that?
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'll leave this with you.
Do you want the cardboard?
We should.
Can we keep it?
Yeah, you can keep it
I
on.
think we should keep it.
I think I did a long time ago, but I will re-email it to you tomorrow.
Come on up, take a photograph of this. Very interesting. Thank you, Christine.
It is thinking, but.
Next week, we're gonna have a discussion on global warming. I'm just kidding.
Thanks, Christine. Yellow's the new.
Yellow's the new.
Orange.
Orange
slush
was.
was.
This town looks like it's in the yellow.
Is it now?
It's like most of the town.
The other question, the other question is what, they're talking about raising the homes, but what happens to the streets? So now you have homes that are, however high over the ground, and now we have our streets are way down there.
And that can't happen unless we adjust our, max roof height, which I don't think is, again, that's how you end up with that, bathtub effect. It's just called.
We're looking at flooding as a real issue.
And Tony on the right, because I have family down in Normandy Beach, and he's right, that whole area after Sandy, the houses are gigantic, the flooding is worse than. Right, Glenn?
Will you be posting these things? How long was this going on and all of a sudden we find out Tuesday night at whatever? The what, I'm sorry?
This just happened in January.
We are in May of the year of our Lord 2026.
We're still trying to figure it out.
We
I
have brought it,
know,
we have
I
brought
feel
it up at
sorry
other
for all
council
of you, but
meetings,
we've
yeah.
got to
Yes,
do
you
something.
can come back up after the meeting and speak to us too. I want to continue, because we have a bunch of things. Thank you. The next item on our workshop is the hiring of our new chief financial officer. Some of you may or may not know that our current CFO, Lorraine Carafa, will be leaving us sometime in June. And she's not here tonight, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank her for her service, the years of service. She's been a key member of my management team since I took office, and I always valued her opinions and advice pertaining to the financial management and our budget issues. And I wish her the best of luck and a long, healthy retirement. Which leads us to the a posting was done recently for a new CFO. So if you know anybody who may want to do that, it's a good job, it's interesting, and please have them apply. Just for the council's knowledge, I was talking to B.A. Kane. We were talking about the selection committee, and I kind of changed the gears a little bit with that. Initially, it was going to be myself and the borough administrator and council president Kinney and April. But thinking that it's a forward moving position, we thought it would be best perhaps if we had you're from the Republican side of this dais. We'll have somebody from the Democratic side. It will include Councilwoman Donovan and April, so that the three of them can conduct the interviews and then advise the council, 1, 2, 3 names or whatever, and work on it together as to pick the new CFO. The CFO is the only position that I know of that must be filled in the municipality. So we must have one, but there are some things we can do in the meantime to cover any short-term vacancies. There's an ability to appoint someone who works here, who has kind of the same kind of experience or same kind of approvals and what have you. So we might have to do that for a little bit, but the notice is out, and as we said, as we get resumes in, we can begin the interview process so that there's no extended delay. Any questions?
No, I would just say I appreciate, I think moving forward, all the 4 of us combined would be a good group also for the selection.
We can't do 4 at one time. We can only do 2 council members at a time, but.
Understood. So we'll have reports back, I'm sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm not aware of the person you were referring to who you could appoint in the interim. Are you going to share that information with us?
I don't know if we haven't mentioned it to the person yet, did we? No.
Most likely it'll be the treasurer, but we have to work through that to find out the exact details on when we need to do that.
The treasurer?
Jane.
Yeah, we have a treasurer. That works for us.
Her title is treasurer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Finance. She's the number 2 person in finance.
Okay.
yeah.
Is that who you were talking about? That's more what I was asking.
It could be anybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I think that was the
It could be
primary
anybody,
person
but
to look
that
at.
would make the most sense.
Right.
But we'll work through that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and one last thing for the council to consider. I just want to bring it up because it always comes up at this time of the year. I think you received a copy of the letter from a resident about the leaf blowers. It's always an issue. People don't like them. They make a lot of noise. And I'm just throwing it out to the council for a future, maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after that or whatever. But I think people would like to see us at least discuss whether or not they should be banned. Should they have certain hours of operation? Should they not exceed a certain decibel level? I think these are all things that we could consider, and the decision is ours. So, but I don't think it's harmful to have that discussion, and at least the people who know that we're not ignoring it. It is an issue. The other side of the coin is that the people who do the landscaping, relying on it, that's how they can do a lot of lawns and whatever very quickly, which I agree with. I'll just throw in my own editorial thing as I walk my dog. I see 4 people, with things from the same landscaper blowing the same things all over the place. And I say, why do they need 4 people? Why can't they just use 2 people? And I think that magnifies the issue. But again, I think it's worth discussing and seeing what we want to do.
Mayor, the Belmar Environmental Commission has discussed this before, I think, before the council, right before I came on, I believe. But it's come up again in the context of the noise ordinance. And the intention of the Environmental Commission was actually to survey different landscapers to see what their capabilities were before we move forward, so that we weren't hindering anyone's, if we were to make a recommendation, we weren't hindering anyone's ability to have their lawn done the way they would like. So that was part of the conversation.
Well, maybe that's a thing you could bring to them first, if they want. Did they survey everyone?
This has been an ongoing conversation.
Oh.
So yeah, the one step was going to be, sorry.
One step was going to be surveying landscapers to see what their capabilities were, and the other was to survey residents before making anything, because anything like this should be done in accordance with the wishes of the residents, because that's who we're here to serve. I know that there are a lot of other towns that are looking into these. Some have successfully put in bans, some have not. It's all kind of all over the place. But if anyone has ever thoughts, please contact me.
I think they're both good ideas, and we should explore it with the Environmental Commission if they want to do that, and they should let the council know.
Sure.
Yay or nay, if they're going to follow through that. with that little project. Okay, I think we should move on to petitions. Do we have any petitions?
Mayor, I did not receive any petitions.
Okay, approval of minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 12th meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The reports of council, Councilwoman Donovan.
First, I would like to say thank you to our borough staff, our volunteers, and our fire department for beautiful ceremonies yesterday for Memorial Day. Thank you. The Belmar Environmental Commission presented its community energy plan for public input. We are glad to have members of the public come forward to see the presentation, and if you missed it, it will be available on the Environmental Commission's website. But this was to remind you that grant-funded initiative to examine the borough's energy use and recommend ways to become more efficient and save the borough money. We had the first farmers market. I hope some of you made it out. I spoke with vendors afterwards, and everyone seemed very happy. I encourage everyone to visit it. That will be Sundays in Piano Plaza. And that is about it. Thank you also to the borough staff, our PD, our EMS, our DPW for the Seafood Festival. We had a beautiful weekend. I also hope everyone made it out to that. And that is about it. Thank you.
Okay, Council President King.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Seafood Festival was a wonderful weekend. Thank you to our tourism director, Jenna Van Nest. I think she did a good job her first year on Seafood Festival, or was this her first or second year?
First full year, yeah.
First full year. But all our participants and the bands and our restaurants and obviously PD and DPW and everybody helped make that successful.
There was a particularly good band, younger.
No, my guys were there.
Oh, I thought they were. Okay.
All right, so recreation, Friday night concerts every Friday, 6 p.m. This Friday, the 29th, is Dragonfly. Old Time Baseball Game is coming back. The 1864 rules. It's going to be held on June 13th at 11 a.m. The game will be played on Memorial Field on 12th and Railroad Ave. Teams will be the Monmouth Furnace versus the Hoboken 9. Movies on the Beach are going to start Wednesday, July 1st at dusk. Location is 7th Avenue. And July 1st, dusk is like 9 o'clock, guys. So just be careful of your young kids. First movie is going to be Ratatouille. Summer basketball sign-ups end June 7th. Summer tennis lessons for kids and children are still going on. Lessons will start the week of July 6th. Kids running club sign-ups are still going on, and the running club will start July 8th. Completion of the Dempsey Park basketball courts should be done soon. Girls Middle School League will start their season on June 22nd. Games start at 5 p.m. And Marina Mabry, who is a Belmar resident and plays in the WNBA for the Toronto Tempo, purchased a floor cleaner, scrubber, donated it to Belmar Recreation, and will be used to maintain the gym floor. So thank you so much to Marina Mabry. Shade Tree Commission is doing a joint meeting with the Environmental Commission. When is that? I was going to ask you. Is that June 11th? Is that the 30th? Okay, so stand by for Councilwoman Donovan.
Yes.
So June 11th, right? That's going to be a joint meeting between the Shade Tree and the Environmental Commission. I think it's going to be here or at the library.
I thought library.
Library at 6:30. Yeah. The graduation banners have been ordered, and I'm sorry if you missed the deadline, which was the 21st, but they should be out for print now. And DPW, I think, is going to try to get them up by the first week of June, hopefully. Right? That's the plan. Okay. And then the last thing I have is St. Rose High School. Graduation is this Thursday, May 28th at Monmouth University. And their scholarships, again, exceeded like 20 million for all the kids that got money to go to all the schools that they were, promised potential scholarships for all the seniors. So congratulations to all our seniors. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Palacio.
Okay, planning board meeting did not happen last month, but we do have a meeting on June 15th. Harbor Commission did a walking tour last week. We took a look throughout we walked from courthouse down to the marina and all the way down to the boat ramp, which was very informative. We talked a lot about the iDock, which is the closest dock to Nagdap Pier. Some of the fingers on it the finger docks are sideways or turned upside down. There's actually a bid out right now for that to be demoed. In the meantime, for this summer, we did request them to be moved so it doesn't look the way it kind of disheveled, and make sure we had enough safety in place. We got a really good report on the boat ramp. They added some sensors so it's easier for people to back in and be able to pull out without the gate closing on them. I know that's been a problem for some boat trailers. They did note over by the token machine, which is still cash only and no change, or you get quarters, so be careful. There was an ATM machine there. The ATM vendor throughout our town opted not to put their ATM back there. So I didn't bring this up to you via Kane, or maybe we could talk to that vendor about putting the ATM back there, because we do have a cash-only machine right next to it. I'm not sure why it got pulled. Jay wasn't sure either, but something to discuss, putting the ATM back. And I don't think there's an ATM in the marina at all anymore. It's not one by Marina Grill. Maybe Ninth Pier, because they're cash-only.
Fisherman's Den.
I'm sorry?
Fisherman's Den's got one.
Fisherman's Den has an ATM. Okay, so if we need it, that's what we do have one there. The next Harbor Commission is June 9th, and that'll be at 6 p.m. And again, just to say that we had a very eventful last couple of weeks. Seafood Festival was a great turnout, perfect weather. Memorial Day was not perfect weather. We had a very rough weekend. I did take the opportunity of a rainy day to go meet with our lifeguards after the beach safety presentation. They were still out there in full force with no beachgoers, sitting in the rain all weekend. And just a reminder that lifeguards are not full-time throughout the week until June 12th. So Monday through Thursday, there will be no lifeguards. It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a few more weeks until we can enjoy the beach every day safely. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Maroney?
The ADA committee is going to have their anti-bullying and awareness on July 14th. We worked with Barry Trumbull on that, so that's going to be the date. I don't remember if I gave that date last meeting. We're going to be meeting early in June to start the planning process for that. And apparently it's been a very successful program in the past, so I'm looking forward to my first year getting involved with that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. I just have actually two things. The first, the Seafood Festival was very good. Of course, Mother Nature, went along with us and let us have 2.5 beautiful days, so that's always a good omen. The second thing is, I'm holding up something here. It's an order from the court. And this order was worked on very, very diligently and hard by us on the council and our redevelopment attorneys. This order is the final order granting us third-round judgment of compliance and repose. Okay, this is very significant, and it represents a lot of very, very hard work. So I just wanted to let you know that we actually have that. We're waiting for that same order for the fourth round. Everything has been approved by the court, and the only thing we're waiting for is the court to essentially produce this document for the fourth round. Okay, so we're inquiring to see if the judge will do that soon, but when I get it, I will sit here and hold that up also and say, and that's the end of the fourth round, and that will, we actually have completed our constitutional obligation to meet our affordable housing requirement per the Supreme Court directive. So that's all I have at this point. So let's move on to the public session. Public session will be on all of the resolutions that are on the agenda. Please be sure to limit your comments to 5 minutes if possible. Thank you. Any comments? Mr. Kramer?
Public comments on resolutions?
Resolutions, any other resolutions that are on the agenda, yes.
Okay. Resolution 2026-101. is Eugene Creamer, Fourth Avenue. Resolution 2026-101. First paragraph. Please change River Road to River Avenue. I think we've been through this before, Mayor. River Avenue is east of the railroad. River Road is west of the railroad. There's a big map in the hallway over here, right next to this room. You can check it there. It's River Avenue.
We can make that modification.
Yes.
If necessary. Okay.
Just a general question, Mayor. That's in reference to submitting I guess it's a sewer extension permit. Is that going to connect up to 8th Avenue and everything go down 8th Avenue?
I don't know if our engineer happens to be here, having nothing to do, sitting with us here. He nodded yes, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I'm just wondering, that these are going to be 5-story buildings.
Yeah, it's going to connect to 8th Avenue and head towards the beach.
Right. And a lot of us live in 1- and 2-story homes. Now, we know the toilets on 5th floor will flush. Does that mean our toilets, if the pipe gets stuffed up or something, does that mean the water then backs up into our homes?
I am not a plumber, but I believe there is some kind of a valve that's supposed to prevent that. I don't know. It's beyond my expertise. I'm sorry, I don't think.
This is what happened in the aftermath of Sandy. We actually had toilets with the water coming up and making messes on the lower floors of the building.
I can't answer your question, but we'll make note of it. I don't know if that, Jim, do you know, that's not a usual situation. No?
It would be very unusual. You would have to have multiple lines that were clogged for that to happen.
Yeah.
Similar to after Sandy, it wasn't just one sewer line, it was several sewer lines. And I would venture a guess that the pump station may not have been working either. So to answer your question, no, there's zero chance that you're going to see.
Unless we have a Sandy.
Or bigger, yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Any other comments? Okay.
We have a motion to close the public session.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda which also includes resolution 2026-101 being amended to say River Avenue?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Bonifesco?
Yes.
All right, next we have, resolution 2026-110. This is a resolution authorizing the issuance of plenary retail consumption license to Klein's Fish Market for a period ending June 30th, 2027. Do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
April, I have to abstain from this due to the fact I've worked on this restaurant and also my son works there.
Same, my daughter works at Klein's and I have to abstain.
Someone else like to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Bonifesco?
Yes.
Okay, next is resolution 2026-111, resolution authorizing the issuance of a club license to the Order of the Friendly Sons of Shillelagh for the period ending June 30th, 2027.
Can I ask after?
Motion.
Second.
I believe Mr. McGill had clarified that my husband is a member of the Shillelaghs. I know yours is. I think he clarified that was no longer a conflict. Oh, I thought it was. Okay. Is that considered a conflict?
I don't know what
George was thinking is, do we have enough votes?
We do.
Non-conflicted votes here?
You could abstain if you want, we still have 3 votes.
Lindsay.
And Councilman Maroney, you're a member, right?
I'm a member, I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. So Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfusco?
Yes.
So next we go on to ordinances. The first one is ordinance 2026-6. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 40 Development Regulations, Section 7.24 signs. This is open for public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on the ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address. She's not allowed to.
Okay, here we go.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-6?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfusco?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2026-10. This is a bond ordinance providing for various water sewer utility improvements and the acquisition of water sewer utility equipment appropriating $192,500 and authorizing the issuance of the same in bonds. This is open for a second reading and public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on the ordinance. Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-10.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfusco?
Yes.
Okay, next we have ordinance 2026-9. This is a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements and acquisition of capital equipment appropriating $2,448,345 and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the amount of $2,379,783. This ordinance was tabled from the last meeting. After speaking with our CFO, she advised to put it on the agenda and asked the council to decide if you wanted to make any changes, if you want to introduce it or table it again.
I would actually
like to table this again. That was right.
I would like to table this again. First, I have questions about, I know we still have to do 6th and South Lake. And it would be my preference if we're bonding to bond for multiple roads, because that is one of the biggest priorities we're facing as a borough. I question putting $9,500 in a bond ordinance. And just some of these, we just raised taxes over 9%. And so I have a lot of, I just think we should be very, very careful about how much more we're spending. And I'd be curious to hear everyone else's thoughts.
I had a number of conversations with their department heads. I don't need to go through that now, but there was quite a bit on this that I thought should be pulled out completely, and some that I think I agree would not be necessarily worth a bond. I did get some reports from the court. I got reports from DPW. I got reports from the police. We don't need to go into that detail now. I think we can work through that. One of the biggest ones that stuck out at me is that some of the road improvements on 8th Avenue. We have 2 of the largest construction projects about to commence on 8th Avenue, whether it's in the top 35, also 35, 8th and Main. I don't see how that, doing streetscaping now, bonding for it is valuable. We're going to be ripping that road apart over the next couple of years with developments.
I think we absolutely need to do 8th
Avenue as quickly as possible. And I believe that we've already done the water main there.
This is for streetscaping, this isn't for the.
I'm aware, but, you do the underground before you do the top, but that also includes a bond and a grant that we have to use for it, so I wouldn't advise.
Question I have, I'm sorry. Question for Mr. King, is that 8th Avenue subject to a grant?
Yeah.
And is there a time clock on that before we?
By
There is a timeline on the timeline to award a contract, yes.
Okay. Are we still in, do we know when that is, or?
It's typically 2 years after award,
Okay.
so probably November, I'm shooting from the hip
Yeah.
now, but I'm thinking it's like November of '27.
Okay.
And remind me, it's not all of 8th Ave, it's Ocean to C?
It's from Ocean to D.
Okay. Which would be affecting the construction at the top of 8th Avenue.
So, well, that means the utility portions too. Have we established engineering estimates for this? Have we established any construction estimates for some of this work?
Yes, the estimates were done as a part of the grant application. So depending on when you choose to undertake the project, if you push it to next year, bump it up by 5% at least, just because things don't get cheaper as we move into the following year.
I just don't want to see what's happened to us in a couple, we don't have bids on it yet, we don't have design on it yet. Then we end up going out to bid and we get bids and they're over the grant application and then we're forced to approve that and take money from somewhere else. I'd like to see a little more detail on the project and, bidding of it so that we can, basically guarantee we don't go over this expense.
If I can just put forth 2 suggestions. Last week, certain members of the council said they were going to reach out and get more information on what was going on and it would be shared amongst the council members. I haven't gotten anything, but if you could please, if you're talking to department heads and they're giving you information about items that are on the ordinance, please share that with all of us so that we can make an informed decision at the next meeting. The second thing, I think, to be fair to the CFO is, we need to figure out, or you need to figure out which ones of these items you're ready to approve and which ones you're not, so that we don't do this at every meeting moving forward. In other words, so if we can identify 2 or 3 or even 1 item here that everybody is on board with, at least we know, well, we've got that done. If we know that there are items that are not going to be approved, then we know that those are done. And then if there is a third category, which is like in between, then those need to be discussed. I just want to, get to the point where either we're going to do the bond ordinance for a number of these things, or we're not going to do it for any of them, or we're going to do it for some of them. So if we can come to the next meeting, with some definite, yes or no's or maybes, I think it'll move it. We can do that, obviously we can't do that as a group through email because that would be a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. But I think you could let April know, I'm okay with, 1, 3, 5, and 6, and I think she could put it all together, so at least we can let the CFO know, all right, these 5 things are ready to go. And she can make the decision if she thinks we should move ahead or not. But I think we kind of have to nail some of this stuff down.
I did.
Did you do that?
I did have that Friday. Actually, had a kind of this is just my take. Wasn't anybody else. And it kind of got missed by the CFO. She didn't send it out. We were going back and forth. So, and I do have the reports that I was going to share with the public.
Yeah.
I think we could table that to the next year and everything.
Yeah, I think that in the future too. Sometimes it's better to give it to April. She's on top of all this stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So is there a motion to table this? Is that what I heard? Okay. We have a motion to table this ordinance. It is which ordinance is it?
9.
9. 2026-09. Okay.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Barone?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfusco?
Yes.
Okay, now we're on to the regular public session. If anyone would like to make a comment, please step forward, state your name and address first.
Claire Hayner, 18th and B. I too am not a fan of the loud leaf blowers, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of the batteries exploding from the battery operated ones. So when we start to look at a neighbor's neighbor, I should say, where they used to live, the garage burned down from the battery just exploding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes, so it's like, ever since then, I've been unplugging them and everything else versus leaving them all on the chargers. So when we start to have the workshop on the noise, let's include the batteries too, for safety. Thank you.
Good point. Anyone else? No, Chief.
Question.
Please give us your name
Yes, my
and
name
address.
is Julius Kanakis. I reside at 213 14th Avenue. And I'm about to replace the sidewalk, the apron to the garage. I had to file for a permit. And then I have to put $1,000 in escrow. The house is 21 years old. I figure I replace whatever is not efficient. And I'm questioning if I get a permit, because somebody has to come and check it out after it's done, why do I have to put money in escrow? $1,000.
I think that's an April question, but it usually is to guarantee,
Right,
you know, performance.
we discussed this, it covers the engineering inspection that is done.
Okay, so.
The permit fees only varies, usually
But
around
those
65.
fees get deducted from the escrow.
Yes.
Correct, and then you get the
But I
balance
thought,
back.
I'm sorry, April, I thought it was from the whole panel, the legislature that does that.
Well, yeah, they set the ordinance that set
That's
that
what
dollar
I
amount.
mean. So maybe they should revisit it, because the sidewalks will cost a pretty penny, things are not exactly peachy keen. And $1,000 in escrow, it amounts to something.
Yeah, I think what April was saying though is that the borough incurs a cost to do the inspection
How much?
and everything. Well, it varies, and that's why there's the escrow.
Half an hour, an hour?
It's easier to go the escrow route than to come to you after the fact and say, we need, you know, X number of dollars to pay for the inspection. So that escrow is the way to do it.
And
So
what is the fee for the permit, may I ask?
I don't know.
It starts at $65 and goes up depending on how much work is being done.
Forgive me if I do not agree.
So you're entitled to not agree.
Okay, perhaps you should revisit it. I don't know if anybody agrees with all that. I guess everybody has money in this town. I don't know. I just think that it's extraordinarily high.
Okay, we
Thank you for
understand
your
what you're
attention.
saying. Thank you.
Did you want to comment?
Mr. Mayor, through the chair, if I may. The fee, we don't set the fee, I think that was set by ordinance, but any money that's left over from an escrow inspection is returned.
Right.
So if it's one inspection and it's $250, then the applicant would get the $750 back.
Yeah, I think we tried to explain that also. Okay, go on.
Leila Marks, 605 Ocean. I have two beach-related questions. First, this weekend is the volleyball, right? A lot of things been happening at the shore. And I know that you guys talked about when you did the presentation, that they're gonna have their own security. I know Belmar PD is on top of things, but.
We're also gonna be there.
Yeah, that's what given the circumstances, just was curious. The other beach question is, 7th Ave, we have a breeding area, a nesting area for birds, and my recollection from the birds breeding 2 seasons ago was that extended well into July. Now, they were down closer to the ocean that year. Now they're up and they're right, so I know you said July 1st is the first movie on the beach. Has there been any consideration about maybe moving that? I mean, because of the area it's fenced off. If you take a walk up to 7th, you can see it. the birds don't mind, they're very friendly, we talk to them every day, they like people, they realize that people being around actually scares away their predators. But
I honestly didn't even think about it.
yeah, it's worth taking a look
consider it.
at if there's another area, because I know the beach is wide there, which is part of why it probably was chosen for the.
Yeah, we've done them at 5th, we've done them at 7th. I think did we do them at 10th?
It's just something to consider.
I'm sure we can, if that's still happening.
Well, right, because I
In a
think
month.
based on DEP, like, we don't have any control over how that gets set up, correct, Mayor?
Correct.
Right, so, we're working with them, and, frankly, I came up here and asked about it last time, about this legislation that may or may not happen, but, if they're gonna start looking at how, just to wrap up on this with the birds, because we've got at least 2 areas that I know of that the DEP is roping it off. We can't use it, we can't sell badges, and people can't sit there. I'm just wondering, down the line, if we were to come into a circumstance where we have to produce these, not only beach revenue, but then projections, who would be the party that would take a look at that and see what impact that might have on our projections? Because it could be a significant projection change if it extends through a large part of the season.
What is their season?
Yeah, I
These
don't know what
birds?
the season is.
When do they hatch or
I
fly
mean,
away?
my recollection is they hatched late in, I have videos of them, I can tell you the date, but it was late in July of 2024, I guess. And the only reason that they took down the ropes is because sadly the bird chicklets, whatever they're called, they got eaten by foxes. And so that was the end of that. They came, took down the ropes, and that was that. But, if they had survived longer, they could have been up for pretty much the whole summer, at least into August, because it was very late in July, and they were still not flying yet, which is how they got eaten. So
I'm going to let B.A. Kane wander into this conversation.
I don't expect to have an answer. I'm just wondering.
No, he has recent developments.
It's monitored on a weekly basis. DEP just is always at the beach, and they look for signs of nesting and they'll rope it off. But the birds have had an issue with the fox for quite some time, and it's an ongoing thing. When they see activity, they try to protect the nesting, but sometimes it doesn't last that long, and then they're constantly moving. So.
Do you have any comment if we were to be part of, some kind of DEP oversight based on the beach utility? How would that figure in? Like,
I think the question you're asking is basically, why does DEP have the right to say what we can and cannot do on the beach? And that's very simple. The beach is not ours.
No, I know that.
So
I'm saying that if we have to produce numbers for projections.
they're going to say we don't need to produce numbers. That the beach is there, is a public trust, and,
Okay.
we sell X number of badges, that's fine, that goes into the utility, and we use that money to serve the beach. If we make less money, then we spend less next year. It's just it's an in and out
I
thing.
understand that, but people in the state legislature that are not from beach towns, they don't understand that, and they're making it out like these. There's a lot of narrative surrounding it. These beach towns are taking in all this money, and it's who knows what they're saying to people. But there's people throughout large parts of the state that don't have any appreciation for what the beach operation is. And I'm just thinking about the impact of, the birds are there. Those are areas that are roped off. We can't sell badges.
We can sell badges, you just can't go in those areas.
Well,
Unfortunately, we have a very large beachfront, so.
we do.
If I wanted to argue the other side, I would say, you know what, that little bit of area is not gonna impact your revenue, because people will just go they'll go to 6th Avenue, or they'll go to 8th Avenue, or they'll go to 2nd Avenue.
And who's required to enforce that? Are lifeguards?
What's
Who
that?
is required to enforce that up on the beach? Are the lifeguards required to enforce that?
No.
Who comes in? Who's the bird police up there?
I think people, my
there's
experience, I live
freelancers.
right there, so I see it every day. My experience is that people are very respectful, they're interested. There's not any issues. When there were a lot of kids on the beach last week when it was nice, the kids were playing ball, whatever, it didn't seem to bother the birds. They like people. But,
The birds were there first, that's the DEP's.
They were, curious about what kind of impact that might have and
I
how,
think the impact.
you pass the ordinance so that you can only do ball sports, and that's the area where the birds are, so it's just another thing to consider.
Well, we'll move
I'm
the
just throwing it
movies.
out
We'll
there.
move the movies if the birds are still there.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Suzanne Ann, Fifth Avenue. I wanted to say thank you to everyone for the memorial ceremonies. I feel like I have a suggestion that might involve bringing in the elementary students as part of the festivities, maybe a choir. They have their own marching band. I know this was done in the past. I know we have an opportunity, November 11th would be Veterans Day this year. Maybe we could read the names. We have, I think, 14 names on our plaque that gave their lives for us. And
I think we've done all that in the past. I know we've had the choir from Belmar Elementary School. I don't remember exactly which holiday it was.
Veterans Day.
Veterans
They have the
Day.
band there and
Yeah.
the choir, yeah.
I think if they were involved, again, that the kids would appreciate it, something they can grow into. And
I'm all
something-
for it. I should,
Thank you.
definitely. Any other comments? Okay,
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, and next we have our last resolution, 2026-112, resolution permitting the council to adjourn into executive session. Whereas it has been determined by the Borough Council that it is necessary to discuss the following specific matter at its regular meeting in the absence of the public, attorney-client privilege matters and pending and potential litigation. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act permits the Borough Council to exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting during which such matters are discussed. Now therefore be it resolved that the Borough Council shall recess into a private executive session from which the public shall be excluded. That the scope of the aforesaid executive session shall be limited to the matters as stated, that those matters discussed in executive session shall remain confidential until such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists as determined by the borough attorney. That minutes of the closed session shall be taken and kept free from public review until such time that the need for confidentiality no longer exists. And that the regular meeting shall resume after the private executive session, at which time the Borough Council may take action in reference to the topics discussed. Do we have a motion to adopt this resolution? Motion.
Second?
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Councilman de Blasio?
Yes.
Councilman Maroney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfast?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dare you, a double dog, dare you.
Let's go, guys.
All right, we're back in public session. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion?
Second.
All in